Hey everyone, welcome back to What the Fertility Season 4. Today we have Jackie on with us, who on Instagram is JJ Family Story. She is an open book, and we're really excited that she's here to talk about her journey. It's been quite a long one. She's gone through 8 rounds of IVF transfers. She's used known donor eggs, donor embryos. She's had miscarriages, chemical pregnancies, and she's also had a stillbirth of mono twins. So we are just so thankful that you're going to be on and just share your very vulnerable story. And we're just happy you're here.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me and having this platform in general to let people talk. It's been a lot.
Yeah, it sounds
Yeah,
it really.
it sounds like you've gone through all the different routes. So really, I guess if you want to start with kind of where you, I guess, entered the world of infertility and when you and your husband kind of realized, okay, this is going to be difficult for us.
Yeah, so I don't know why, but I always kind of felt like it was going to be. I don't know what that was, but I so my background is ultrasound. So I was an ultrasound tech for several years and I was working at an OBGYN and infertility clinic. So I had like background knowledge on all the things already. But me and my husband, we've been trying to conceive for roughly 7 years. We got married in 2019, and after that is when we actually started like looking for treatment. Um, and I remember like my first like labs, all of that, everything has always been like completely normal on both our ends, of course. Um, I have endometriosis, but we obviously didn't know that until much later. But like really great AMH, all the things. Like we went into IUIs, we did 5 of them, and like every time we thought we had like great results. We had, I responded well to meds, I did all the things, but yeah, I never got a pregnancy. So we went directly into IVF. And really, like, I feel like I never, oh, excuse you, never imagined that that was going to be like a difficult thing, like kind of how everybody thinks, right? Like you do IVF and it just like works, right? Like,
Right. Like the difficult part is like doing the like the retrieval. Like
yeah,
that's
yeah,
the difficult part of IVF, not like
right.
the failure. Yeah.
Like, yeah, you just don't think. And even with like my background, I thought, like, that's not going to happen to me though. Like, it's going to be great. We even had a conversation of like, what are we going to do with all these extra embryos that we're going to have? Like,
Right, right.
so we had already like discussed like donating them and like, all this stuff, which it kind of came full circle. But like we did my first round of IVF and we got 10 eggs. And then, we were waiting the next day and we were all excited for our results to come through. And I got a phone call um, where they're supposed to tell you, where how many eggs fertilized and everything. And they said, all 10 of your eggs degenerated. And I was like, I don't even know. What are you talking about? What is that? Um, they never even like got to bring the sperm even close to the eggs. Like they all just died like before.
Wow.
Yeah. Which was, they're like, oh, this is super rare. It never happens. Like,
Oh, that's
we'll
helpful.
try it again.
Did they
Yeah.
ever like I not warn you, but is that I feel like when I went through IVF, they never even said like, oh,
Oh,
you could
No,
get these eggs and you might not even get
never.
no, that
yeah.
wasn't even
Never
like
heard of
a
that.
topic. Yeah, I never heard that either.
And you
Yeah. And
working in the field too, you were probably like, what?
yeah, I was like, I have no idea what you're even saying. And I honestly haven't heard, like, I've heard of people having like one or two degenerate, but I've never heard anybody have all of them.
Right.
So we went and did like a second retrieval, like pretty much, I think it was like a month or two later, because like my doctor was like, this never happens twice.
Oh
Well, it
God.
happened twice. The second
Oh,
round, we got 10 eggs again. 9 of them degenerated and one of them fertilized, but it stopped growing like pretty much
that's
immediately. Yeah, totally wild. Like,
Okay, so on your Instagram bio, it says you have PCOS. Is that right?
yes.
At this point, did you know you had PCOS or did you find that out
Well,
later?
so my AMH was like 5.9. So I was shocked that we were only getting 10 eggs each time
Right.
first, because like I had like 25 follicles. So they were saying I was having empty follicles,
Hmm.
which I was like, didn't really know about that either.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like where they just, you can see it on the ultrasound, but like when you actually retrieve them, there's like nothing in there. It's just fluid,
Yeah,
right?
no eggs,
Yeah.
apparently.
Oh my goodness.
And then yeah, I was like, this is just like the weirdest thing. And so we immediately started looking at like donor eggs. Um, and I did a lap between that, and that's when we found out I had endo, which was
Okay.
kind of like that's what we've sort of chalked up like my really poor egg quality too.
Mhm.
But like there's plenty of people with endo that like get pregnant, spontaneously and don't have any issues. So
And is it, and you might not know this, but like basically endo can just destroy or like diminish the egg quality because of like the inflammation and like the just the
yeah,
environment of the ovaries. Is that right? Some,
yeah, they say like there's been like studies on the follicular fluid of people with endo and then without, and like there's something that does something to your egg quality
Huh.
with people with endo, which is
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I feel like a lot of people start to explore endo once they've had like no pregnancy,
bad.
miscarriage. And so like that was really like smart. I mean, obviously you work in the
Yeah,
field, you're like, let me try a lap. But
I was
uh,
like, I might
yeah.
as well, and I was truly shocked that I had it even, and it was like, I mean, it's like stage 3, 4, like, um, uh, deep infiltrating endo.
Wow.
So
Did you
yeah,
have anything, was it like an exploratory lap or did you have anything removed when they went in or they were just like, hey,
well,
that's it?
yeah, so we went in just like exploratory. And it's it's wild because not only have I been scanned like a billion times, but like I've scanned myself a billion times. I ended up having an endometrioma cyst that was never seen because it like my ovaries were like tethered to like my bowel and my abdominal wall and like all these things were connected. So it just was never seen. So we had that plus just a bunch of adhesions and just a
Wow.
ton of
Did you
stuff.
have any pain or were you like, this is
Well,
silent now?
yes, but like I thought no. I was just
Yeah.
like,
It's
everyone's period
horrible.
is
Yeah.
painful. Like I've been told my whole life this is normal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, back when I was in high school, I would like not go to school on days. I would skip out on work if but I just thought that was like the
Right.
thing
Well,
people
Horrible.
did.
yeah, and like I do feel like even like movies or TV shows, like you have your period, people are like laid up in bed with heating packs and
Yeah.
ice packs. Yeah.
Yeah. So honestly, until I had my lab and then my first cycle after my first lab, I was like, what? Like, this is what your period's supposed to be? Like, nothing. Like,
That's
Like this
crazy.
it was
is so new to me.
yeah, it was so bizarre. And I was like, okay, well, screw all those doctors that told me all that was normal because it was
100%.
so
Right.
not. Yeah. So, after I had that first lap, my cousin actually called me and we're only, oh my gosh, 11 days apart in age. So like we were like twin cousins. She called me and she was like, I would donate my eggs if you want them. So, yes, obviously I was like, yeah, that's amazing. I'll talk to my husband and he was on board. Um, so we did that and she actually donated twice and it's really this is kind of I just have the worst luck. So, she has two kids that she had easily, just no problems. And then when she donated to me, her AMH was like 0.9.
Oh my
And
gosh.
we were like, but also we were like, okay, well, we're going to try it anyways.
Do you mind us
So
asking, was she like in her 20s, 30s?
we were 32.
Yeah,
I
and
want to
point
say.
9 is like 40 and over, like 45.
Yeah, like it's low.
Yeah.
And I was like, girl, yours is low. Mine's normal. What's wrong with
Yeah, what's
what?
happening
Of
here?
course.
Yeah,
Of
it
course.
doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So she donated twice. The first time we got 2 eggs and only one fertilized. And then the second time we got 4 eggs, they all fertilized.
Wow.
Um, yeah. So we had a total of 5 embryos from her. And we went right into a transfer. My first transfer um, was technically successful. I got pregnant and ended up miscarrying at like 8.5 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Goodness.
And yeah, it was exceptionally awful because I decided at work I would scan myself.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
So then I had to go grab a coworker and be like, yeah, need your help.
Oh,
And
goodness,
That's
Jackie.
like, I know, I work in the space too, and like I've had
yeah,
many, many miscarriages, and it's always been found from like, let's just scan you real quick, it'll be fun. And then like
hmm
you're just, and
yeah,
then you, after you have that experience, even just getting like friends to scan you or
I would
coworkers,
like never would do it again. I
because
never
it
scanned
almost,
myself again.
yeah, it almost feels like it's not, but it's almost like, oh, because like she did it, that's why it happened. And that's not why it
Right,
is, but it
right.
definitely feels that way. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
So
it was,
can I back up just a second? So with
yeah,
your cousin, with the embryo, the 2 IVF retrievals, did you guys have to pay for that? Like, is that's still like she has to go through
yeah,
IVF?
yeah. We paid for it.
Wow.
But we did go with CNY so that we could afford it.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately I had no insurance coverage, and obviously for her, you have to pay out of pocket if it's like a known donor.
That's what I was curious about. So like, yeah, so because she was a donor and she didn't technically like have quote unquote infertility, was
hmm
it like, I mean, I guess CNY is perfect. Like it's a pretty low cost. It's still like very expensive, but it's lower
Right,
cost than like a standard REI. But yeah, just I guess that's kind of similar to like, I don't know, like a surrogate. Like they're not, their
right,
insurance isn't going to cover it. So then your insurance also isn't covering it if
right.
like you were to be the one doing it.
Yeah, yeah. Her insurance did cover like some of her like ultrasounds randomly, but like, yeah, I was like, I'll take
I just
it.
wanted to highlight the fact that
Yeah.
like yes, donor is great, but it's still expensive because
Oh
they're
my
still
gosh, yeah.
having to like it's not like they can just like give you their eggs. They still have to go through IVF.
All the things, yep. And so like all the medications and all the labs, all the, on top of just the procedures.
Did she live close to you where you guys could kind of like do that like
Yeah, yeah,
together?
and she got all her monitoring done at my work. So like look at her scans as they were like happening.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
well, that is
Yeah.
really nice. Yeah.
So I like knew everything that was happening like
Yeah.
as it was, which was great. So I knew what to expect like when we went in for those retrievals. And like I went with her one of the times too, which because we traveled to Colorado from Minnesota to do those. But yeah, I mean it was just like the nicest thing that somebody could have offered. And it was really hard when we lost the baby because, well, it's hard because miscarriage, but it was also hard for her because she felt like very responsible for like this, and like we never discussed like how what could happen. We just assumed it was
Right.
going to work.
Right.
So yeah, that was really difficult for both of us. Um, we did do testing on that, and that was a chromosomal issue.
Oh wow. I'm
Yeah,
so sorry for your loss.
thank you. Yeah, that was that was just, I mean, it's one thing to like go through IVF and then to end up with a miscarriage is just,
Yep. Yep.
yeah, so unfair.
It's so unfair because you put all this money, time, effort, hope, trust, and like then it's just
hmm
like doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah. After that happened, I was like, you know what? If I can miscarry with donor eggs, I'm gonna try my own one more time because I'm just super stubborn. And
No, I would have a very similar thought process.
yeah, and like, you just kind of like have to do the things so you don't think
What if or
What
later
if?
on.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we did it again. And my husband was like not really on board for that. He was just like, I know it's really hard to watch somebody go through all of this and like, they can only do so much for us while we're struggling with all the things that are happening to our bodies. And yeah, but we did it. And that retrieval, I got 6 eggs and they all degenerated again.
Oh,
So
oh my goodness.
yeah, yeah, I was like, well, okay, well, this is
That's the
ridiculous.
answer there for us. Yeah.
Yeah. So we ended up going through and just transferring all the rest of the embryos. It was like, I think we had 3 more transfers, and each of those was completely failed. No implantation, nothing. Um, and now I don't know, we didn't have them tested or anything. So we don't really know if it was like an embryo issue or also my endometriosis, because
Mhm.
throughout 8 transfers, I've now learned that like my endo will either make it an embryo fail or I'll get a chemical unless it's suppressed or I've done like a lap right before.
Mm-hmm.
So I met our donor embryo family on Facebook.
Love
So
it.
yeah, um, and they were amazing and I still talk to them all the time, but they gave us 17 embryos.
Wow.
I know.
That's wild.
I know. I was like, you guys are so lucky. Like they had some so they had um they didn't really have infertility. She had her tubes tied. So like she had like all these wonderful embryos.
Yeah.
So they had twin boys, and then and she had like I think 3 children prior, and then her twins, and they were like, okay, we're good, we're done. Like
Yeah.
um
17. Like, I feel like that's just like, especially for all three of us, just like mind blowing. Like,
I
what?
know. I
Even
like can't even
imagine the
imagine.
I
number.
didn't even get 17 eggs.
Oh,
Oh,
gosh, no.
I know. It's crazy. So, and I was like really adamant though, like when I was looking for embryos, I was like, I need at least 5. Like I've
Yeah.
already been through 5 and like it's not working. So I was so happy when I found her and we just sort of like hit it off really well. And um yeah, I'm still so fortunate that we have so many because it's still been quite a journey on top of that. So
Yeah.
when we got those embryos, I want to say it was like December of, oh my gosh, I
You
don't
like,
even know what year it was. Was 2023? Yeah, it must have been.
is that right?
2022,
I think it was
2022.
2022 because the
Yeah, because the
twins were
boys were, yeah,
2023. Yeah.
yeah. So I had another laparoscopy surgery right before we transferred our first. We did 2 donor embryos. Yeah, and my lap was right before, so I had it in March. We transferred them in April. And then we discovered that 1 embryo stuck, and then we didn't find out until like 8 or 9 weeks that that embryo had split.
Wow.
Yeah, so the thing with mono twins, I don't know how much you guys know, but like there's like several types of twins, right? There's typically we say like 3 types of twins. There's di twins, which are 2 separate eggs, 2 separate embryos. Um, Monodi, which is the most common type of identical twins, where there's 2 sacs inside a gestational sac. And then there's mono twins, which are the rarest type of identical twins, and it's 2 babies inside 1 sac. Um, and the major like danger of this is that they are like there's no blocking anything from the other. So they're intertwined with each other. Their cords are very easily tangled and um, yeah, it's super rare. Only in my scanning career I've seen that one other time.
Yeah, I work in MFM
So,
as well. And as soon as I saw your story, I was like, mono, oh my gosh, it's so rare. So I'm sure as soon as you found that out and
oh,
knowing you were
yeah,
like, we do have patients that, as soon as they come in and it's mono, it's literally just like hold your breath the whole pregnancy.
yeah, yeah. I was shocked I made it as far as I did, really. So my coworker was scanning me, and I like we were both looking at the screen, and I like totally blacked out. I don't even know. Like we looked at each other and our like mouths dropped and we were like, "Oh my God." And she's like, "How how have we missed this so far?" Because like I'd been scanned every week, but like mono twins are just so close to each other that you just like can't see until there's like a little bit of separation. They really look conjoined. So you don't know if they're conjoined until like a little later even, which
Wow.
can be like really scary. Yeah. So after that I went to MFM and like yeah, they confirmed mono. And we were just being scanned like every week until oh my gosh, well, forever. I was scanned every single week. Um, but we had made like a plan with the doctor that we would be going into inpatient at the hospital at 24 weeks, and that you usually deliver um, at like between 30 and 34 weeks was the plan, anyways. And that could change like literally at any second. So we found out they were boys, and we were um, just getting our scans, and like just I was shocked. Every single scan, I was like, this is crazy.
Because
Um,
they were growing like on track and like, yeah, I
everything
think
was,
I looked at some of your stuff on Instagram.
yeah, everything was perfect. Like, just had, it was just crazy. Like, I had been expecting, like, from the very beginning that it was going to be, like, not great, just because I was like, I knew too much almost. Like, but, every week I was just like shocked and they were doing great. And um, I went to have a scan it was like the end of the week. It was going to be my last week at work. And I was going to go into the hospital the following week. And I just asked my coworker really quick, "Hey, can you scan me really quick?" And she was like, "Sure." It was the end of the day. So we didn't think much of it. And she scanned me, and we found that Remy no longer had a heartbeat. And that was 23 weeks.
Gosh, I don't like that's just, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Uh, I honestly, like when it happened, like I feel like I just like I didn't like it was just like yeah, I don't even have like words. I just was
Yeah, like no,
so
I've never had a loss that late. I don't even know how you could process that. Like,
yeah, and I don't know like that I was. Like I felt
right,
like I must have just like disassociated completely at that
for
point.
sure.
Like
100%, sure.
um I know I called my doctor like immediately, um and so she called my MFM doctor, and then my coworker was like, just go. I will call everyone here, like, and tell them you're not coming back. Like, it's fine. Like, go. And so I left, called my husband. I don't even know what I was like, what I said. Um, and I believe I called my mom too on the drive home. But once I got home, my doctor had called me and said, "I'm gonna have you go to the hospital, and we're gonna just like monitor and see what happens." Because another concern when you lose a twin when they're sharing a placenta is like the blood pressure shift that can happen between the babies, and it can cause like brain damage and all sorts of things to the living twin. So
I
then
mean,
I'm freaking out.
yeah, like the amount of anxiety that you had already, right?
Right,
Because
yeah.
you had
Oh, I was heavily
infertility.
medicated. Like
You had,
I
yeah, like
like
I can't even, like there's like 17 things that happen before you get pregnant with mono that would
Mhm.
cause anxiety for a very like singleton pregnancy. Then you have mono, which people that have never had infertility, it's their first pregnancy, they're pretty much terrified the whole pregnancy. And now
Yeah,
this, like I can't, I don't even know what I would do. Like,
yeah. I do like it was honestly, like I said, I felt like a lot of that, like a lot of my pregnancy, I like couldn't even be like present for it
Sure.
because it was just so much. Like,
And then
Right.
your
Yeah.
nightmare happens at 23 weeks that you've been not expecting, but you've been like saying like this
yeah,
is the worst thing that could happen, and then it happens, and then so you're like, but I'm still carrying another baby, and so I have to keep
yeah,
doing.
stay like around and do the things. And yeah, so when we went to the hospital, I was in for like 4 days. And I was like, well, am I staying? Like we were planning, but the doctors were like, oh, technically, like you're a singleton pregnancy now. So no, we're just gonna like let you go. And I was doing BPPs twice weekly and NSTs. Um, and there's just like not a lot of literature out there. Like doctors don't know how to take care of a singleton from mono twins either
Mhm.
because there's just not a lot out there.
As an ultrasound tech, like what can you even really monitor? Like that's what I'm saying, like because you have all these
Okay.
concerns of what
Yeah.
can happen, but you can't really probably see that happening.
No, you really can't unless well, and it's kind of like for a lot of things, like when you're being scanned, like you can see that things are good right now.
But maybe not
But
in an hour. Yeah.
right, like there's
Yeah.
nothing you can really do to predict whether something
Could
will
happen.
happen later
Yeah.
or even if it was happening earlier. Like
Just couldn't see.
sometimes there's signs and things, but like, yeah.
I feel like working
So,
in the industry, especially as an ultrasound tech, like I try to explain to
yeah.
my husband, because I mean, I have massive anxiety too. And it'll be like the day after like a scan. And he's like, but we just had a great scan. I'm like, yeah, that was 10
Candy.
hours ago.
Yeah,
Like
doesn't
things
help me
can,
at all.
doesn't tell
I know.
me anything. That gave me like peace up until that exact moment. Okay, this is how
Right,
far we
right.
made it, but we don't have peace until the next time we
Oh my
go.
gosh.
Like
I
I need
know.
a
And there's so many
constant
people.
monitor on me at all times, like with a camera.
Yeah,
Like please, come
Yeah.
on. Like, come on.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
actually why I like the like thought process of an induction because it's like, okay, I show up at the induction and now you guys got eyes on me until
always.
baby.
Yeah.
Like still doesn't mean that
Yeah,
there's going to be a good outcome, but it's like at least somebody's like has eyes. Yeah. Oh gosh, this
totally.
whole experience for you as an actual clinician
Yeah,
has just you again, you said it earlier, you know too much. Like
yeah,
as soon as I read your story and saw mono, I was like, whoa.
yeah. It's and it's so hard to explain mono too. Like I remember my mom's like, I don't understand. Like there's plenty of identical twins. Like it's fine. And I'm like, it's not fine. Like I
There's
cannot
different
like
kinds of identical twins.
stress this enough. Like
Yeah.
I like at that moment of like when I found out like they were mono, you had basically told me that I'd miscarried. Like in my head, I was like, okay, well, this is over. Like,
That I didn't want to say that, but basically when I talk to our MFM doctors, they say that's what they say. They say like when patients come here, like it's pretty much like wait to
mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to like sound really morbid or anything, but like there was the consideration of like, do we continue the pregnancy? Because like I
Well,
was terrified.
that's
Like,
what I was gonna say. Yeah, I mean,
mhm,
you'd already been through so much trauma. You'd already had a loss. You'd already worked so hard to get here. But then I think on the
mhm.
flip side, you had worked so hard to get there, and you're like, no,
Exactly.
I am like having a viable pregnancy.
Yeah, and it was like there were a lot of things that kind of went into like deciding whether or not we were going to continue, and it was like technically it wasn't going to be like a you can't really just it would be considered like a an abortion due to like just because I wanted one versus like a medical termination, you know.
That's
So there's
interesting. I didn't think about that. Even though it would be,
yeah,
it is for medical reasons because it's such a high risk pregnancy, but
but it's
at the
not like
time, there's no,
terminal yet. And like so that went into it. And then there's also the option of like reducing.
Yeah.
So we talked about that too. And the unfortunate thing is that you have to wait until 18 weeks with mono twins. And I was like, well, if I make it to 18 weeks,
oh my
I
God,
can't,
Well, then.
do
I
that
can't
then.
do that. I can't. So for me, I was like,
We're
no,
doing,
like
yeah.
we're gonna power through and yeah. So
Wow.
um that was a whole nother part of that pregnancy that was
Yeah.
just really
Okay. So they send you home, and you're probably at this point like days shy of 24 weeks, which is quote unquote viability.
yeah, yeah. So at that point I had quit work. I was on my like leave, like health leave. And I was going to MFM twice a week. I hit 26 weeks and um Wyatt was having like some issues on the NST. So they sent me back to the hospital. And like we had discussed, like I got steroid injections, like this is what it's going to be if we end up having to deliver him now. Um, and so that was crazy. They talked about, like a classical C-section and a magnesium drip and, all the things. But whatever was happening on his NST actually like completely disappeared and he was doing great and everything was perfect for another 4 days. Like I was continuously being monitored and they sent me home again. Yeah. So
What a
then
roller
we just
coaster.
upped my appointments to 3 times a week. Like, and I
Wow,
just,
insane.
yeah, kept going for 3 times a week. It was a lot. And they were like really long appointments because normally NSTs are like what, 20, 30 minutes.
I
We were
bet they
doing
kept you on it for
hours.
like two. I was gonna say, I bet they
Yeah.
kept you on that for 2 hours.
Yeah,
That's
they'd
what we
keep me on
do.
for hours to just
Yeah.
make sure. And then I had friends at MFM, so they were like my scanning friends. Like they knew me, and like from previous, like before I was even pregnant, they knew me. So, um, I mean, it was kind of nice to have like my friends there, and like
Yeah.
it was never strangers scanning me.
You could always ask questions. You knew you were getting
hmm
top care. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm really grateful for all of them there. And then, yeah, honestly, everything was like good for like 4 weeks, like a good stretch of time.
Like 4 weeks
Um,
is a month. I feel like when you're pregnant and you're like,
yeah,
people
it was
forget like
a
four
long
weeks
time.
is a freaking month.
And
And
it
I
was
mean,
like,
I was gonna say, not to mention, you and your husband are and probably family are like
So,
grieving the
yeah.
loss of one
mhm,
child while you're trying to like hold on to hope for the second child. Oh my goodness.
yeah, I mean, it was just so much. And like, I felt like we had had like this time to kind of mourn Remy and like get used to the idea of, okay, we're just going to have the one. And um, so I don't know. It was just that, yeah, that's all a whole thing of like trying to wrap your head around. And
What
I
a
remember like we had like planned on doing like cloth diapers and like all this stuff. And I kept thinking like I have too many diapers. Like,
that's what I was gonna say. I mean, you were already over 20 weeks. I'm sure the twin nursery, the twin supplies, the twin, yeah.
yeah, we had a lot of stuff. I had still like I wasn't buying clothes or I wasn't buying like I was very, I don't know, like, scared to buy anything.
I'm the same way. I'm almost 20 weeks and I haven't bought one thing. I'm like,
Yeah, mm-mm, no. Like I
no.
feel like that's gonna be so weird to buy something. Like I just
Yeah.
yeah, the diapers and stuff were like given to me and my cousin did, cloth and so she was like, "Oh, I've got all these." And she's like, "And I'm so attached to them." So like,
Yeah.
it was like a special thing for her to give them to me and like then I had other people who were giving me things. So I only have like stuff that people gave me, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, it was just like too many diapers. So just I don't know why that was like really the thing that like kept going through my head. Um, so when we hit like it was 30 weeks. I woke up in the morning and I wasn't feeling Wyatt moving. And I was like, well, that's weird, but like maybe it's just me. I had woken up in the middle of the night and I felt like, is something weird, you know? But like, I was like, you're just like, because I'm so full of anxiety anyways, that I'm like, you're just like, you're scaring yourself. It's fine. Like, you need to go back to sleep. And I did. I fell back asleep. And then I woke up in the morning again. And I was like, okay, like something's obviously wrong. Um, my husband's like trying to get ready for work. We'd had like a couple scares because I'm like, you know, freaking out constantly. So he's like, all right, if you want to go, like, I'm just going to take a shower and like I'll come find you um after or whatever. So I drove to the hospital and they got me in, you know, at labor and delivery, and they put on the NST and they couldn't find his heartbeat. Um, and I knew like, well, I felt like I knew before that, but like they were like, we're gonna get you know, ultrasound in here to double check and like see what's going on. And yeah, I called my husband and I was like, you need to get here like right now. Um, I was like, they can't find his heartbeat. And he's like, well, they need to check again. Well, they are, you know, but like I know already because I'm in the field. I know what's going on. And he's like, no, they're gonna find it. Like they're gonna look and it's gonna be there. Um, and so the doctor was scanning me and doctors don't scan a lot. Um, you know, it should be the tech. And so she was kind of like confused because there's two babies still and like, you know, and I was just like, I just remember like looking at her and I said, I was thinking about the heartbeat. So I said, is it gone? And she like looked at me and she's like, I don't know. And I was like,
You're the
what?
doctor. What?
Yeah. Like she was like, well, I'm not seeing any movement. And I'm like, Jesus, you know, like I'm just like,
Right.
she's like, I need to get a tech in here
You
to
were
like
probably like,
look.
just give
Let
it
me
to
scan
me.
myself
I
right
know.
now.
I
Like,
was
give
like,
me
I
the thing.
wanted to be like, just turn the screen, like let me look.
Right.
But I was like, you know,
Also, yeah.
almost throwing up and I'm like
Yeah.
freaking
Yeah.
out and I'm like, can you get me some water? Because I like can't even breathe, you know, and I had the most wonderful nurse in the world come and she like just sat there and held my hand and was like, I'm gonna be with you this entire time. Like you're gonna be my only patient and like I'm here to do all of this for you. And with you. So ooh. My husband got there, my mom came, my brother came, um, and just, you know, sat with me a lot. And, um, the hospital I was at was wonderful. They have like a full bereavement suite. So like I had like these like um panels past my door. So like we had like private hallway plus my private room that was like away from everything. So it wasn't like,
Beautiful. Yeah.
yeah, so I wasn't like hearing babies or like all the other terrible things that sometimes you hear during these
Yeah.
experiences. And like they brought us like breakfast and like all these things and like um, you know, had all our family was able to like come in and see us and spend time with us and they were just like so kind, you know, like they really tried to like take care of me and my husband like as best as they could, like and like spent time just like talking to us and like um my nurse, I remember she is like, now you can do whatever you want, but like my advice is like I want you to spend time with your babies and I want you to hold them and like see them and like just feel like as much time as you need like to be with them. Um, and I obviously wanted to, but it was like a hard thing for other people. Like my husband's like, "Are you sure?" Like I don't like he's just terrified to like watch me like do all the things, and they had also given me the option of like a C-section versus vaginal delivery because um Wyatt was breech also. So that was like a whole thing. But I was like, no, I want to do a vaginal delivery because we all know that if you have a C-section, you have to wait longer to like try again. Like they don't let you just transfer and
I'm like
hit, but
hearing
you have to think of that.
I'm
Like,
hearing everything you're saying, and it's like you're in this like immense amount of grief, shock,
mhm,
grief, and then you're having to make long-term decisions about see like and
yeah,
it's just like such a mindset that like
yeah,
okay, I have to try again. So no, I don't want to do. Yeah, this is wild. I'm so sorry.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how I was making any decisions. Like,
Right.
I don't know how I did any of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh.
We were there for, I think, a total of 4 days. So they started like induction stuff, um, which that sucks. It's just, um, yeah, not super comfortable to have like, what is it, Cervidil they keep putting up
Yeah,
there and
yeah, and
cervical checks and
I can't even imagine you going through that, like knowing
right,
that
that your
come
baby's not
already.
gonna,
Yeah, because
mhm,
it's extremely painful.
yeah, yeah, it's just like, I feel like after like the first couple days when we were there and I was just being induced and like I knew that they weren't there anymore, I had like a disconnect of like my whole body. Like I didn't want to look at my belly, like I didn't want to touch it. I didn't want like it was just like I don't know, it's just this very strange feeling. Um, but I had so many people come and see us and it was just the so once like we actually got to like labor. Um, that was kind of crazy. My water broke in the middle of the night because they had finally put a balloon in because I like just wasn't like nothing was happening. And they pulled the balloon out, and my water broke at the same time. And then I went back to sleep, woke up, and I like remember asking my husband, like, could you go get me like some Starbucks or something? Because like the coffee here sucks. And like he's like, sure. He went off to go get coffee. But by the time he got back, I was like full on in labor. Like
Mhm.
he came in like with his coffee and I'm like I've got like my barf bag and I'm like standing up because I'm like holy shit, this is awful, what's happening. And he's like, what is going on right now? And he's like, why should you up? And the nurse is like, because it hurts. Like
Yeah.
it's just like, you were literally fine, like I don't
Yeah. It all
happen in like
happened so fast.
yeah. And I was like, oh my god. And so they had been calling for like an epidural because I had asked the nurse, I was like, can I just get that before like it starts hurting? She's like, yeah, good call. Let's get him in here. But like they just like weren't hearing the page or something. Like so they just like
Oh my God.
weren't yeah, they like didn't she finally like called them and was like, hello, like I've been calling you, like you need to get here like right now. Like
God.
literally yeah, they got there, started putting the epidural in. I'm like freaking out because I'm in pain and like they're trying to do this. And I'm like, no, I'm literally having the baby like right now. Like it's happening like right now. They get everything done, like flip me over. And she was like gonna put a catheter in and she was like, okay, the baby's coming out. Like it's like right
So it
there.
didn't even kick in.
Well, luckily it like kind of I don't know. Like, no, I essentially like could have just not done it. It would have been fine because he was already halfway out. His butt was hanging out. Like, um,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. They were like, "Did you know this was happening?" I was like, "Yes."
Oh
Try
my
telling
God.
you.
And the epidural had stopped everything. So then I like didn't have any contractions or anything. So we're just like sitting there, and they're like, "I don't know. I'm just gonna have you try to push."
That is why.
Because luckily they were so small that like they came out but like no doctor was there, nobody, it was just my nurses like
Oh
because
God.
it just was so fast.
Yeah.
Wyatt was 3 pounds 9 ounces, and then Remy was born and he was 9 ounces because he'd been, in there for a while. So it was hard to see Remy. He was, been gone for 7 weeks at that point, but kind of just hanging out. Um, but yeah, I mean, Wyatt was perfect and
Mhm.
it was crazy. They still like put him skin to skin with me, and I remember thinking like he's so warm, because like I wasn't expecting that, but like of course he was. He was just inside me. Like, um, yeah. I mean, they had me like dress him and put him in a little onesie, and they put little diapers on them and little hats on them, and they had Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep is an organization that comes and takes pictures um, for stillborn babies. So they came and took pictures of them and with us, like holding them. And I am so grateful for those pictures. My nurses also took pictures the whole time I was in labor, and like while I got to deliver them. So that was super special. So I got like a real um, delivery story and like a real
Yeah.
like experience, which I'm just really grateful for. Yeah. And they gave me so many things, like so many little foot molds and footprints and like just so many things. I have a
Oh,
whole like giant box full of baby blankets and like stuff that was given to us from the hospital.
and they were born in November of 2023, is that right?
Yeah, November 8th. Yeah. Yeah. Um Actually, these little bears back here were given to me too. They were specially made for them. From like an organization that, yeah, there's a lot of organizations out there that help during these times.
I
And
think that's the most like raw and detailed story I've ever heard of of stillbirth. Number one, I appreciate you sharing because I know that there's moms out there that have had that experience. I hate when people say you're so strong because you're like, I didn't have a choice. Like
right.
this is what happened to me. But I just it seems as if you've healed or you're healing through this and you can, experience and express not even the positive, but like the good parts of your
Yeah.
experience and like what you can take away from that.
I had a lot of support. I found Chasing the Rainbows is like a huge organization for me that like helped a lot. They do like daily support on Zoom that I would go to all the time. And like even just like not talk, just like listen to other people who have gone through like very similar things. And that helped me a lot because I was seeing like all these women every week, multiple times a week, like going to work and like having other kids or like having a fight with their husband, and like they were just like living their life. And I was like thinking eventually I'll get to live my life again. But like at that point, I didn't feel like I was ever going to. Um, so that was incredibly helpful. And then I also went to a like retreat. There's a place called Faith's Lodge in Wisconsin, and they do child loss retreats. And they do several different ones. So they have stillbirth and they have, miscarriage. And then they also have like infant loss, and they have um, child loss due to suicide or child loss due to missing. Like they have so many different ones. So we got to get together with, it was like 5 couples, and we stayed a few days with them, and we all like shared our stories. We had therapy, we had um, classes like where we made pasta together and then we decorated these birdhouses for our babies and like just like these really like therapeutic things. And I got
Yeah.
to know these other women, and my husband got to talk to these men that like men don't get like nobody looks at him and says like you're so strong. Like, right?
Right,
Like,
right. And I feel like men don't typically reach out and look for support
no,
either.
and he
When you
doesn't
said
talk
it,
about it. Like,
yeah, when you said it was a couples, to be honest, I was thinking, hearing you say this, and I'm like, oh, that would be like so nice. I'm sure she met so many girls. I'm like, oh, it was like, that's
yeah,
great. What was the
like
resource called?
Faith's Lodge.
Faith's Lodge, and you said in Wisconsin?
Yeah, yeah. So randomly, all the couples that were there the weekend I was there, what they were all from Minnesota.
Oh,
So like
wow.
they're all like around me, and I like talk to some of those women like daily. Like,
Oh, that's
another one of them ended up going through IVF, so I like talk to her like about it all the time, and like, just yeah, I got really close, and like these people were like the only people that understood like
yeah.
what we really like were going through, and I could call them and I could just like we text each other all the time, like just like, hey, this is what's happening today, or I'm feeling sad, or it's their birthday, or like, things like that. And yeah, I'm so great. My hospital actually paid for it too, which was, I
Oh,
didn't know that. Like they had given me the resource, and then like when I signed up, I think that there was like a, how did you hear about us? And I put in the hospital, and the hospital like covered it for us, which yeah.
wow. I want to
So
implement that at our hospital. I wonder, yeah.
amazing. There's several different retreats too, so there might be one closer to you, but
Okay.
yeah, it amazing. It was
So in the show notes, we'll definitely link all these resources, and I will look up some other ones like throughout the country. I would love to do something like that. I'm
yeah.
like you said, like it was so
So
meaningful.
yeah, since like all of this, I've volunteered a lot with Chasing the Rainbows, and we're hopeful that we'll eventually get to do like a retreat also. So they're like just the child loss and infertility, because um, infertility is a loss in itself, on top of everything else. So I do like support groups with them twice a week for infertility, and then there's pregnancy after loss support groups, and obviously pregnancy loss support groups. Yeah, just, and it's all free. And there's also free trauma based therapy that you can get into immediately, not waiting 3 months or something to get into. So they're just such an amazing nonprofit that I like owe them everything. They're like, I talk to like the woman who started it all. Like we just call and talk to each other all the time, and like she's just one of my favorite people in the world. I'm so fortunate to have found these places in a time that was just like so awful. But I like think what has helped me a lot in like healing is like changing a bit of like my mindset of, I was seeing things that would like remind me of the boys all the time. They're nursery is dinosaurs, and so I'd see dinosaur things, and at first it was just really sad when I'd see these things, but instead it's kind of like now I see those things and I think they're like saying hi, hey mom, like, it's like a special thing to see these, like they're just saying like, or they're watching or they're supporting, and they know I'm doing everything that I can to like keep them with me, but also
Wow.
like keep moving on as much as I can. Yeah. So,
Thank you for sharing that. I don't
yeah.
think we have like we're just at a loss for words. I mean, I that experience is just
Well, I
yeah.
try to think of like them like not as something that's sad in my life, because it's the happiest I've ever been was to be with them and be pregnant with them. So, like, crying obviously, but I miss them, but yeah, it's just, I can't think of them as something sad, right? They're like the greatest thing in my life. And I need to like use that in some sort of good way.
That's so beautifully said. Like, yeah, you can tell you've done a lot of work, a lot of healing and emotional work. Wow.
Yeah, it's been a lot, but
And it's only been a year. I mean, it's only been a
mhm,
year and like a month or so. Yeah.
yeah, it's not that long. It's amazing to me. But moving on, doing transfers and like crazy.
I know. I know. I'm like, I don't even want to move on because like you said, that was the happiest you've ever been. And, you know, obviously you had to heal. I mean, pretty much gave like a full term birth at that point. I mean,
Yeah, I
yeah,
know.
like you carried for, you know, what, 7, 8 months?
Yeah, it was 30 weeks. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
mhm.
And so, okay, so you're healing, you're going to these retreats, you're emotionally, you and your husband are probably emotionally going through everything. But I heard you say, like, I don't want a C-section because you had already pretty much at that time, like, we're gonna keep going down
Right,
this path.
right. Yeah.
Um,
I don't know how I like even decided
yeah,
that. Like, I just in my
yeah,
head I knew that was not going to be the end of my story. It wasn't going to be the end of their story. Like it just I was like, we've gone through so much. It's
you
not
can't
going to
answer.
just this isn't that's not going to be the end. They're just
Yeah,
that's not fair. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
So last
So,
year you
mhm.
started back up.
Yeah. We did do two transfers like I think it was March and in April. Both of those were chemicals. Because we had been hoping that the pregnancy had kept my endo off, but it obviously did not.
Mhm.
So that sucked. Obviously, that was
I'm like, that could be a podcast in itself, like mystery.
yeah, yeah.
They're
Like my
still
story
birth.
is not. It's so long, and like there's so many just like
Well, and
insane.
you do a phenomenal job on your Instagram. And so Amanda
Thank
mentioned
you.
it. It's J_J_ family story. Yeah, and
Yeah,
you share all of this. I
yeah,
mean, it's
yeah.
so if people want to go and like learn more about like each stage of your journey, I mean, I think you do a great job.
Yeah, I started it like right before we transferred the boys. And like I'd been through all these things already prior, but I was like, it was like the donor embryo thing that I was like, I need to see that there's other families that have done this and
Mhm.
that these babies are okay and like life is like normal. Like it was just such a thing that, I
Yeah.
mean, Amanda, like there's just not a whole lot of families that are out there showing that story.
Mhm.
Um, so I like needed to see that this was like
A thing.
other people were doing it, it was going to be okay. And like just, yeah, because it's scary. It was like a whole new thing. Like there's a lot of the donor eggs or donor sperm, but like this was just the whole new idea that, yeah, I needed to see. So, and it's obviously evolved quite a bit from just like my donor embryo story to the twins to loss, and now just like I say that there's not a whole lot that I can't relate to. Like there's only like so many things that I haven't gone through. And it would
Yeah.
be like surrogacy, like thin lining. Those are the only two things that I'm like, now I
Anything
know
else?
how to approach those things. But everything else, I am your girl.
I checked the box. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
But
it's
I am so thankful for Instagram. Like it seems so silly, but like I don't know where I would be without the people on there that have supported me and like I get messages all the time of other people saying like, thank you so much for sharing. Like you've helped me and like you've helped me make the decision to donate my embryos or like
love it.
I
just
always
yeah, those
say, yeah, I always say like it's not just Instagram, it's not just people and relationships. Like you're bringing life into the world by doing that. Like you and Amanda
Mhm.
sharing your story about donor embryos, like you are literally giving those children a chance at life if somebody makes the decision to do it because of you. And I know, Amanda,
Yeah.
you've got messages like, because I heard your story, like we've adopted embryos. And
Well, yeah, and it's
yeah,
given other families a chance to have a child they never
Even
yeah,
thought.
thought that they
yeah,
would,
yeah.
and you
And
have to
like for
talk about
yeah,
it.
like for me, like I found Lovenox on Instagram and I swear that's why I'm able to have my daughter.
Yeah.
Like it's just like it's not just social media.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's so
I
much good.
know.
Yeah.
And
So
you guys
much.
both found your literal children on Facebook. Like
There's
it's
No,
so much. I know. It is so wild when you think
I
about
know.
yeah,
it.
I have like a whole like thing on my Instagram, highlight reel. I'm like, go join these groups, go talk to these
Yeah.
people. Like, this is what you do. And I've also like partnered with like some agencies because they're like, we have a donor embryo program. And I'm
yeah.
like, fantastic.
I'll share.
Like,
Yeah.
great. Like, I'm happy to like talk to you guys about like, and yeah, it's just been crazy. It's just crazy. Yeah, I'm so grateful. So
Okay, so
much more than
you have
just like
not.
social media.
It
Oh,
is. Yeah, it really is.
So March and April, you said you did 2 transfers and those both were
Yeah.
So then did you then go into a lap after that or?
So I was debating between a lap and doing Lupron. I had
Okay.
never done the suppression before, and I really didn't want to have another surgery because I'm like starting to, at this point, like getting nervous, like how many surgeries can you have before I end up messing something else up?
Mhm.
You hear all like the Asherman stories and like the stuff, and usually when they're doing a lap, they'll sometimes go in and check for polyps, and like, I've had polyps removed, and like I'm just like I just don't really want them scraping everything again. Like it's just
Yeah.
making me nervous. So I did do Lupron, and we did it for 3 months, and it sucked. It was so awful.
I remember talking with you about it on Instagram and you like giving me just a brief lowdown of like what to expect and it just did not sound good. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it was so not fun. But like I was like, fine, 3 months, we can handle whatever, right? Like we're tough, we can do it. I was gonna do 2 months, but then I was like, let's just do the maximum amount of time because like if I do 2 months and it doesn't work, I'm gonna be so mad at myself for not just doing the 3 months.
For sure.
Um, yeah, so I did 3 months. It was like super crazy hot flashes. I was like nauseous. My hands and feet hurt like hell. Like it was like I felt like this must be arthritis or something. It's this joint pain. My back hurt. Like it was so weird. And like my skin got dry. Like you straight go into menopause. Like
That's exactly what I was gonna ask. It shuts your body down, right? Like it you
mhm.
basically tries to suppress everything.
Yeah, yeah. So like my estrogen was like undetectable. Like it was so low, which is what it's supposed to do. So we did that. We were going to go into a transfer and we were going to do a modified natural transfer, which is what I had been used to. I've done medicated in the past, but modified natural, you don't have to use estrogen. And that was like the whole point, right? So we went into it like that, but my body was so shut down, it wasn't going to, like, nothing was happening.
That's what I was
Um,
curious about, like how you could do Lupron and then a modified, like natural modified.
Yeah, I had been worried, and they were like, "Yes, it can be really hard. Like sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it does. We'll try and see." And so I took like well, I did Lupron and Letrozole every day for the 3 months or whatever, and then took a little bit more Letrozole for a couple more days, trying to like force your body to like make a follicle. Like it wasn't a follicle. My lining was like 1 millimeter. Like, so finally, I think it was after like 2 weeks, they were like, all right, let's add in estrogen. We'll have you come back in a week and we'll look. And my lining was like thicker than it had ever been. Like, I
Just
was
with
like,
that
there's no way this is
little
going to
bit
work.
of,
Yeah,
yeah,
a
with
little
the
bit
little
of
bit of
estrogen. And it was
estrogen.
like, boom, hi. Yeah. And I felt so much better. I was like, oh my
Oh,
gosh,
yeah.
I feel like a normal person again. Like, so that's crazy. Yeah. And so we went in, and we did a transfer. Oh my gosh, I don't even, oh man,
With
what
this,
day was that?
was it
We were close.
August,
Um,
September?
yeah, it was just, oh my gosh. Oh, it was December 17th. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Because mine
And
was
this is,
16th and
yeah,
one day
Yeah.
after. Yeah, the
is
7th.
it, was this the 13th embryo left? I'm trying to keep count because
Oh
you
my
had
gosh.
17. So
I
you had
know. I was like,
17,
so at that
Wyatt and
point
Remy, and then the two
Yeah.
used,
miscarriages.
Yeah. Right?
I had
12?
used a total of 5 with my cousin, and then I had
Oh,
transferred 2 each time
yes.
with my donor embryos. So I had
Oh,
used
okay.
6. So and then I transferred 2 this last time, 7 and 8 for my,
What
so
was your, I was gonna say like transferring two after having mono
I was
was,
terrified.
yeah, was
Yeah,
that like a
I was
whole,
terrified. But I was like, if it ends up being twins, it's just such a different type of twins
Yeah.
and
that,
the chance it
like,
would be mono is like, isn't it like
oh God.
1% or
I
something?
mean, like, what does that matter to us? But like,
Right, right.
like, yeah, but realistically, like, it's such a low percentage. And yeah. So if it's die twins, then it's such a different, like,
Experience.
yeah. So it took, but we don't know yet, like, how many took. I haven't had an ultrasound or anything.
Well,
So
if people don't follow you on Instagram, you got to tell the people you're pregnant.
I know, yes.
yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, it's been crazy. I'm still shocked. I have no idea what to think right now, and I'm just nervous. And I was supposed to have a scan already, but I actually ended up in the ER with a migraine all day on the day I was supposed to get scanned. So
Oh no.
I know
Are you
it's
still
super rough.
working as an ultrasound tech?
No, I quit after like we lost the boys. And at that point, I'm like, I want to just find a job that covers IVF. So I'm working at Target.
Oh,
Like,
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I
yeah,
totally
whatever
get that.
works. Yeah.
yeah. I'm like, whatever, it's not forever. I'm stocking shelves, and you know what? It like is a nice
It's
break in my
pay.
head.
Yeah.
Like,
I
I
I have,
like,
yeah, in one of our MFM offices, one of our ultrasound techs, she lost her infant, and she still like she did my anatomy scan, and I'm
I
like,
couldn't do it.
how do
I was
it
already like having
yeah,
such a hard time, like doing it,
going through
going through all the stuff
yeah,
that like and I would love to maybe go back at some point. I loved my job, but like at
yeah.
this point, it's just
I
like not
and
healthy
and
for me.
And for those patients that don't know, like I told my husband before we went in, I was like, don't ask any questions. Like, don't ask,
Mhm.
like, is everything going to be okay? Because the anatomy, you know what I mean? Because
Right.
then that poor person is like, yeah, my anatomy scan was great. Yeah,
Yeah.
good for
Yeah.
you. It's just, I don't know how you guys, I don't know how sonographers that go through infertility, go through like IVF,
Yeah.
stillborn, I don't know how
That'd be
they go.
fun.
I
Yeah,
can't.
it's crazy. And like, at first when I was like first going through all the treatments and stuff, and since I was seeing IVF patients also, like it was kind of nice because like I could talk to them. And
Yeah.
like I do remember one patient that she was getting ready to transfer a donor embryo, and like I left the room after her scan and she was getting dressed, and I was like, you know what, I have to go talk to her. So I like went back in the room and knocked on the door, and I was like, hey, just like I did the same thing. And she was like, you did that? And I was like, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
So I just want to like wish you luck. And she's like, oh, and, like hugged me. It was just like really nice. Like I could connect with people that like no other person there is going to be able to connect to them. So that was really nice.
Yeah.
That helped me a lot, like going through a lot of the stuff. But yeah, I remember having a conversation with like my therapist, and they were like, I just don't think you should do that. Please don't go
Not
back.
every day.
Like,
yeah.
Not every day going in there. Yeah, I remember even
yeah,
with me, like I'd go in and I'd hear like ultrasound, like I'd hear the baby's heartbeats through the wall, and it was just
yeah,
this. You shouldn't have to deal with that in your day to day, especially as you're already processing stuff. But
yeah.
okay, congratulations. We are
Yeah.
so
No.
excited for you. Your betas
Oh,
look phenomenal. I think that was the last
Gosh.
thing you just posted.
Yeah.
Like all the love, hope, peace, prayers. We will be following along big time.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
excited for you. And you've shared so many resources. So we will make sure we get all of the right resources, the links. We will put them in the
Perfect.
show notes. We will include your Instagram handle because you're super open and I think like you're open to people reaching out to you.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
so thank you for just being so vulnerable and walking us through your entire journey. We're just so grateful
Yeah.
you're on the show. And I know that you are going to be able to, like, so many women are going to be able to just like feel connected with you that have gone through similar things. And we just so appreciate you.
I appreciate it too.